Welcome to the next video. What we're going to do now is we're going to talk about labeling your data, or in other words, giving names to your data. So if we're supposed to put data in a database, which we are indeed supposed to do, so let's write about it. So if we ever want to retrieve data, how can we do that? How will we know? Let's write it this way. How will the daemon process know which data we want? Which data in particular? So I could say, whose data is it? From what day? Which problems? It stands to reason that our Python program might want to access this information. Let's come up with some reasons why. What if I want to study the progress of a particular person who's learning how to multiply for the first time? I don't know, maybe they're 8 or 9 years old and this person is using our application and we want to know how quickly they're progressing. We could write a program in Python to do that if we had adequate names for our data, if we had adequate labels. So that is the topic of this video, and that's why I made these names. So to be very clear, things that happen on the left-hand side of an equal sign in Python, I like to say this is a place to put data, and anything that happens on the right-hand side, that's the data itself. So in these cases, I have these things and they're variables. Okay, that's fine. So these are actually the names that I'm going to use in the database for this particular problem. And I've decided that I'm just going to blow away this line about time spent. That is going to be left as an exercise for you if you want to make your program more complicated. So first, let's do the problem. And it looks like I'm going to just take this code I've already written down here, and I'm going to put it up here. This should be a string. Again, just post in the comments if you want to know about this .format thing. You can, if you're feeling brave, you can take it on faith that this will create a string and it will store it into the variable. But now that I've done that, I can just go ahead and reuse that variable down here. So now I have a way of storing the problem. And next, I need to store the answer. Interesting. So to get the answer, I think we're gonna multiply those two together. That should be the right answer. And then the guess, that's going to be whatever they guess. So I will move this code around. And then was correct. How will we do this? Well, let's compare what they guessed to the correct answer. And if these two things are equal, was correct will be true. And if they're not equal, was correct will be false. By the way, if you ever want to test out a line of code like this, you can go right into the Python shell, which we can get to by just typing Python here, or if you're on your own computer where you've downloaded Python, perhaps from the internet, you can go to idle, open idle, and then get to the shell. So if I want to know whether this will work, I want to find out if I can make this variable. I don't know. I'm just taking a quick detour here. The guess and the answer. I'm just going to have G is 10, and I'm going to have ANS answer is 12. And I want to see if this will work. Was correct. And I want to know if this is proper. Now let's find out. So this is a way that you can just test out whether your lines of code. Let's try messing up on purpose. Another thing I like to do. This hopefully should give us an answer, or sorry, an error. Hooray! We got an error. Errors are the best thing. They are by far the best thing. Topic for a separate lecture. Okay, so I had a detour into syntax there. Let's go ahead and move some of this stuff up so that it's in the right place at the right time. In fact, I'm going to take all this and I'm going to move it up above that other code. Apologies. All right. Whoops, there's going to be a problem there. Let's get that guy to go back. Okay, so we've got the problem. Trying to build this in pieces so you can see how I think. So far what we've done, we've made a variable called the problem. We're printing it out to the user. We're getting their guess. We're going to have to put that value of that guess into a variable, which I'm now calling the guess. Don't worry, you'll see why. And then we're going to find out if they're correct. So what I need to do is I need to take this code this piece of information from line 19, and I need to take these pieces of information from lines 28 through 30, and I need to bundle these together somehow, and I need to put them into the database. So I said that the purpose of this lecture was to talk about naming your data. So it does seem that there is one sort of missing link. How should we store this particular problem? Should we give it some sort of unique identifying number? Should we store it in association with the user who is currently logged in doing the problem? Whoa, that sounds like a lot. I never even wrote any code to log the user in. We didn't give them a username or anything. But I'm just sort of trying to give you food for thought. If we were writing a big piece of software when we had a team and we were all talking about it, we'd probably have to decide how this should be stored for different users. So let's put that question, let's put that on the back burner, and let's think about how we'll do it just for this particular user. I think a reasonable thing to do would be to store it simply as if you were in class, as if you were taking a math quiz. You might see problem 1, 3 times 4. Problem 2, I'll go ahead and write this. Problem 1, 3 times 4. Problem 2, what did we say the highest one was? 10. 10 times 7. Let's say these are the problems that you're seeing. You know how usually in math class these things are numbered? Okay, so I'm going to propose that we actually just use numbers in order as the thing we'll store this data with. And in databases, that has a special name. So I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you quickly. Feel free to watch this video again since I'm speaking very quickly. But what I'm proposing is we're gonna index these pieces of data on the problem number. And really, it's up to us. I mean, we could index them on this whole string, quote, problem 1. We could have a string be the label. I'm fine for now just having these integers be labels. But that gets us to, I guess I'm going to write some summary notes. So let's do this. Note, we need labels for our data so that our Python code can tell the daemon exactly which pieces of data to access or to retrieve. When? I'll just say to retrieve. And in this case, we will use integers to label each multiplication problem, or more specifically, to label the data for each multiplication problem. Okay, you can pause that if you want a second to. Those are the two big ideas from this lecture. We've got to label our data so that the Python code can tell the daemon process exactly which pieces of data to retrieve at different moments in time. And in our case, we will use integers to label the data for each multiplication problem. So the final thing I'll put in before this video ends is I'll go ahead, interesting, it looks like I'm not using this score variable at all, so I'm just going to abandon it. And I'm going to come up with, let's say, prob number. Or, yeah, we can keep that variable a little bit simpler. Let's call it n. And actually, we get a freebie here. Oh, yeah, sorry. Many things are happening at once. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do this to make this very clear. So I'm going to start n as 1. I'm going to go ahead and add a little information here. At the very end of the loop, I'm going to add 1 to n, so that each time, so the variable n will start at 1, and when it goes through the loop, the first time the loop starts, it will be 1, and then at the very end of the first time, it will get 1 added to it, so the next time on the loop, it will be 2. So in this way, n will take on these values, one by one, 1, 2, 3, blah, blah, blah. Okay, perfect. So we've talked about the importance of labeling data, and we've done this, even though it seemed small, this line 32 here, we've added our final label. So between lines 19, 28, 29, 30, and I'll make that, 32, we have all the labels we need. Our next step is to actually place this data into the database. And that is where we will resume in the next video.